So everyone who is here, thank you so much for joining us. We see some familiar faces and it makes me so happy. We've taken a few weeks off, but we are back and better than ever. Especially thank you to all of you who were able to turn into our special collaboration episode with sports industry influencers and minorities in sports a couple weeks ago. It was such an impactful conversation. And we're really excited that we had that and we were able to partner with them. And we do have some announcements of what's coming next with our partnership. So we will be sure to email that out to everyone. And we're very, very excited because this week we have one of our favorite ladies in the business with us, Ashley Combs of Excel Sports Management. Ashley, what is good?
Uconn Husky.
What's a very proud Connecticut Husky.
We will hear about that.
Some of my alumni are watching too. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I'm sure people will be trickling in as we start, but first topic, we could not start this episode without discussing, our tip-off, the NBA bubble. The good old NBA bubble. Like, what are your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I have mixed feelings about it, I guess. Like we were talking just a second ago, like I haven't really left the house in months. Like I'm not getting sick. That's not going to be the case for me. And so I'm a little nervous. I want all of the guys and all the people working down there to be healthy and like for this to go very well. At the same time, like I'm a basketball junkie. And so if this can go well, and I feel like like I said this earlier, if anybody can pull this off well, I think the NBA is like the team of people who's going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
If they're able to pull it off, I'm going to be sitting here literally not blinking, like watching basketball all day. Just like I can't wait for basketball to come back. So hopeful that it'll be a safe environment, that guys, stay healthy throughout the whole thing. And not even just like COVID, but like no injuries, none of that. So I think I'm excited for it to come back for sure.
Oh yeah. But how do your players feel? So on the contrary, it's like, this is where you're at, but what about your players?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think many of my guys had that same feeling, which is like, if the league says that it's going to be safe for us to go out here and do it, like, feel pretty good that that's going to be the case. I think some guys, if they had it their way, probably wouldn't do it. But I think they're also really excited to get back to basketball too. Like these guys, they hoop their whole lives. They've never had this kind of downtime. And so I think guys they're just, cautiously optimistic, right? Like want it to go well, but I think once they get there and they're back to playing, it'll be
good. And do you think because I was reading something about this and just love seeing what people say on Twitter, but will there be like an asterisk next to this season? Like whoever wins, whatever happens, is it like, so whoever's crowned champion this year, is it like, oh, we'll like look at the situation that we had,
Yeah. This is the situation that the entire world is in at this point.
Right.
Like, this is it. Like, this is what we have. And I think it's going to be really exciting. Like it could go any way. I was listening to some podcast and they were talking, we're starting up a season like 4 months later. I think we all have it in our minds that like the teams that were doing really well before are just going to come back and just be great. But, I'm probably rooting for some underdog action here. I'm looking to see some folks get some upsets. So
yeah,
I'm eager to see how it goes for sure.
Definitely.
It's going to be interesting to see how they come back and like their game shape and how they are with their teammate. Like they're going to be a lot of like, they're going to be out of rhythm. I mean, it's going to take a couple
There were
games.
so many guys who took months off, like, because they were being cautious given our situation, because they didn't have courts at their homes. Like, of course they're doing some level of workouts in their spaces, but
I think
they were on their way to playoffs. Like we were like, ready to go with the playoff push. So, I think I'm going to take off for sure, like the first couple of days and just sit here and just watch basketball and just like take it all in.
Yeah, we're right there with you. I think I was listening to Reddick's podcast and he was saying what you just said. Like he found out that some other players in the league like hadn't touched a ball in 30, 45 days. And he was like, how could you possibly do that? Like, for a million reasons.
They've never done this. They've never done this in their whole lives,
Never.
So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Wanted to talk about, the NBPA and the NBA just announced that they're going to allow players to change the back end of the jersey, remove their name if they want to, and put something on there to support the Black Lives Matter movement.
Sure.
The question is, and obviously, look, Twitter is the best and the worst, so Kyrie got the brunt of it. But the question is coming back a distraction from everything that's going on right now and clearly more important? Or can we actually make more change by playing and figuring out ways to continue the conversation? And I don't know if there's a right answer, but
yeah. So many of the players who play in the league are Black players, right? Like they grow up in a world where all of these things that are happening are not new things for them.
Right.
And beyond just that, like even in season, guys are managing practice schedule, game schedules, team appearances, partnership deals. These guys know how to multitask. And I feel like so many players are passionate about their give back, whatever that looks like. If it's Black Lives Matter, if it's kids camps, whatever it looks like, I think that guys are extremely passionate and they always find a way to make space to be able to do both. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the league has never demonstrated itself to be like, no, I don't want to help players. Nope, I don't want to be a part of social issues. It's always been a league that's been at the forefront of all of this. Yeah. And so while I appreciate that this moment is huge, like this moment feels, I think, unlike any other, I don't think we need to tell players who this is how they feed their families. This is how they provide for their communities in big, meaningful ways that they shouldn't go play. And now, you know, in that conversation of if a player says, hey, I want to take the time to focus on this, cool.
Yeah, that's,
like,
yeah.
Right.
No issue. But this idea that we should mandate like what that should look like, I don't think we need to. These guys do the work, are invested in doing the work. And I think that will continue in the bubble and beyond, as it always has.
Yeah, there's also a reality of, and again, there's no right or wrong, and I don't want to keep harping on Kyrie because I'm a Kyrie guy.
Sure.
But there's the difference between being a superstar and being on your third or fourth contract and you got millions in the bank versus like a second-year guy or a rookie, or you're still on your first deal. And not only are you trying to survive in this league, but to your point, like this is how you make a living. This is how you feed your family. So like there's also the reality of that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we look at players and we're like, they make so much money, so blah, blah, blah. But like, this is their job. Like this is my job. Like, you know, it's really similar. And certainly one of my guys was talking about it at the start of this, but like, not everybody's great with their money. Not everybody is like, this changed so quickly for all of us. None of us was prepared for like, oh, there's going to be a pandemic. Like we didn't even have the mind to think through that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's just important. I don't count my players' money. I, help to empower them to make whatever decisions they want to make. I give my opinions on things always, for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you do have to be mindful. And I think, just given that I have players at a range of, level of being a veteran in this league, like you have to be thinking about not just yourself, but how it affects the whole league, the whole 450 players.
Yeah. And before I even ask this other question about how players can continue to elevate their voices and affect change, there's a very unique opportunity here where not the entire league, obviously, because players are opting out, but the vast majority of the NBA are going to be together. That's powerful. And I think that's an opportunity for them to come together and really talk about things, really work on like, okay, what are we going to do when the season ends? What are we going to do while we're here? What's our messaging? What can we do? Whereas, even at the NBPA meetings, you don't get 100% just because guys are all over the country. So
sure.
I think that's something, but really the question is like, how can the players continue now that we're coming back? How can they continue to elevate their own voices, their team voices to help the BLM movement?
Yeah, I mean, I it's also like an individual thing, right? Like some people, this is not going to be their thing. And even within that, like the ways that we each contribute to this may look very different. Some guys give money because that's where they can make the most impact. They don't really have the speaking points down. They don't feel comfortable, but they have dollars to be able to put. that's extremely valuable. We have guys who are very outspoken, as you know, in the league. Yep. Those guys will lend their voice. I think that there will be a lot of conversations amongst players figuring out how to keep things moving forward. But this is not new to these guys. Right. They have been doing this work anyway. Like, that's the whole thing when I'm hearing all of these conversations. It's like, guys are doing this work. Guys are putting their money where their mouth is. Like, they're doing this stuff. So I think it's really just a continuation of what the guys have been doing anyway. And a challenge maybe for some of those young players or players who have not known how to speak or move in these areas before to step up and feel comfortable to be able to do more now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to see, like, because to your point, like, some of these younger guys feed off of the veterans and things on their team. So at least being back, like, when you're home, especially when you're used to being with a team so much, like, you may not feel as powerful with your individual voice as you do when you're with the collective. So I'm excited to see what comes from it. I think it will do, a lot of service to the Black Lives Matter movement. I think, even with what the NBA is doing on the courts, they're showing that they stand with this, that's where they're at. I was more concerned about health than anything, but, which was my true biggest concern, because, it's just scary, and Florida's, cases just continue to go up, and, you have to think about the staff that's working with them. But to your point, Ash, like, the NBA knows what they're doing, and, there's insurances, there's things. It's like, we've got to try it at some point, and I think containing it is the best way to do it.
For all of us, like, we're all at some level of, like, insider in terms of knowledge. So there's some stuff I know, but, like, I'm not working on this stuff day to day. There are people who are working on it every day, all day.
Right.
Like, and it's important. So I just, for whatever reason, have, like, the level of trust that says I'm sure that they are doing everything they can. The players are their business too. This doesn't work without them. So this idea that we might just be putting people, at risk, like, intentionally, I think that everybody is going into this doing their absolute best.
Right. And you're bringing all your staff down there too, who you need, who's vital, so we'll all be tuning in together to see what develops.
Exactly.
But we'll definitely talk more about kind of athletes and social justice as we get more into your career. But, we'll dive into the first half right now, which is just covering your career path and how you got to where you are today. So you're currently in the basketball division at Excel, which we're going to talk a lot about in the second half. But as always, we want to start from the beginning. And when did you know that you wanted to work in sports?
I've never wanted to do anything except work in the NBA, like, ever. Like, you can talk to, classmates from when I was in 9th grade, and they'll tell you, like, this was Ashley's interest. I went to Connecticut. I was with my roommate this summer, and she's like, yeah, when we first met, you were like, hey, I'm Ash Combs, and I'm going to the league. And I don't remember having said that to her.
Yes.
But it feels on brand. Like, this is all I've ever wanted to do. Now, figuring out what exactly was my lane, where my gifts lie, like, all of that part took some time and some trial and error. But I've never, there's not anything else I've ever wanted to be except I wanted to work in the NBA.
And you made it. You made it to the league.
Figured it out. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you got started in sports while you were at Uconn. What was your first experience with sports at Uconn?
My first experience, I think, and I didn't start working in athletics in any capacity until I was a junior. I was trying to figure it out. I knew some people who I thought could help me. It didn't really work out those first couple of years. And also, I was just, like, young and social my first couple of years at school. So my first opportunity was in athletic marketing, which was like the people who do on-field promotions.
Yep.
That was me at every sport. So I did that. I did athletic fundraising. I did operations for, like, a couple of days, and then I quit that because that was not my jam. And then even that same year, my junior year, that's when I started to get introduced to the folks in men's basketball. So that was always the goal. The goal was always to be a manager. Nobody was trying to give me any play. They weren't really feeling me. Like, so, and I know there's a question about a mentor. I had just been talking, right? Like how my college roommate knew it, how people in high school knew it. I always have just been talking about, I want to work in basketball. I want to work in basketball. And so some program I was involved in, I said it out loud. This woman is like, I know someone who knows someone. And she introduced me to my mentor, this guy, Justin, who's a professor now at Uconn, but who worked in men's basketball at the time.
Ivanovich?
And so, yeah.
I was a graduate assistant with his brother at Providence. He says hello.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. It's awesome. So he gave me like my first opportunity. Literally, I would just go to like the video room and do like video stuff. Nobody in men's basketball knew I was doing any of it. Like he just gave me an opportunity. And then I worked Jim Calhoun basketball camp. My girl Taylor is in the chat, so she knows about Jim Calhoun basketball camp. I worked Jim Calhoun basketball camp. And then that summer we hosted an elite camp. And I must have done a good enough job at Coach Calhoun's camp because they let me like go pick up our alumni. Like they gave me some pretty important roles. And at the end of that, they were like, hey, we don't typically take managers as seniors, which I was, but we want you to come on and be a manager. So that was my first, like, that was the opportunity that I was always hoping for. And then I worked as a manager my senior year and also in the office. And then I stayed on and did 2 years of grad school as well at Connecticut and worked in men's basketball throughout that time as well.
Nice. I recommend people to be a manager because you will never do more grueling, grunt, terrible, but at the same time, fun, amazing, rewarding work. Like it's both in the same day. You could be doing laundry and then getting on a private charter to go play whoever, like on the same day.
Yeah, like I like to be a part of like things that are done at a high level, big things like that's exciting for me. And so my first year as a senior, we went to a Final Four and we lost, and that was not fun. We lost in Detroit. And then the next year, it was an NIT year, not very good.
Yep.
But my last year as a student, a full-time student, was the year that we went on that crazy run with Kemba, where we won the 5 games in the Big East tournament. Yep. So we won the 5 games in the Big East tournament, which like at that time that
was the crossover against Pittsburgh, right? That was
I mean, Kemba's run that year was like incredible. So even at the beginning of that year, we went to Maui, and he went nuts in Maui. Like I just remember people like talking about it. But the mid part of that year and like just playing in the Big East, we weren't all that good. Like we struggled. And I remember how that felt. So we had that, but then he went on that run, and then obviously we went on the run in the tournament. And there's nothing like working in a situation like that. Like there's nothing like that. First Final Four was crazy. Like insane. We're in Houston for a week, like and as a student, we're students, like nothing touches it. Nothing touches it. It was such an incredible opportunity to work there, to work for a Hall of Fame head coach and be able to always say that. Like when I introduce it, I'm like, I work for the Hall of Fame head coach, Uconn.
Right.
Yep, I did it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Uconn is the foundation. Even when I saw like those questions on the rundown, I'm like, yes, because I love UConn. Like it is a part of me through and through. I'm always going to be a Husky. And like I said, that was really the foundation of starting to build a real career for myself in basketball, just, beyond just an interest.
Have you been back recently to see the new facility?
I saw the facility right after it opened up.
Okay.
So it was still like,
it's impressive.
Very brand new. Yeah. We deserve it.
It's big time.
It's the men's and women's facility.
And now you're back in the Big East. How do you feel? You excited to be back in the Big East?
It was.
Thank God, right? You don't have to see. You don't have to see UConn.
I'll be very honest here. I have been mortified in the last couple of years. Like it has been embarrassing. And one of my players is from Villanova.
Okay.
And he's a 2-time national champion from Villanova. And he hammers me. He hammers me about how good they are and how bad we are. Every time we lose, it's like merciless. So I'm very excited to be back in the Big East. And I'm excited for us to turn it back around. We were such a from the ground up program, built by Coach Calhoun. Like we're not Duke or Kansas or Kentucky. when I found out that I just wasn't paying attention. When I realized that we had more championships than Kansas, I was like, how is that possible? Like, that is like, that atmosphere there is so insane. So I'm really proud to be from UConn. I'm excited for us to turn it around. I'm excited for us to get back to where we once were.
Yep, no doubt. And Gino's gonna do what Gino does. So
always.
I love the women. I love the women. The women are my friends.
Yeah.
But I'm from men's basketball. That's
So you worked with the basketball team for 3 years, and then you transitioned to the San Antonio Spurs. How did that come about?
So, I mean, I basically just kind of stalked them a little bit. Like, it was the only thing I applied for in my last year. Wow. Again, that was the year that we were going on this crazy run. And it's hard. Like, it's hard to be a full-time student and be in the mix of all of this, like, exciting stuff, and then try to figure out this next phase of your life when you're in your early 20s. Like, that was very challenging. So I applied for the opportunity to intern with the Spurs, like on teamwork or whatever. Yep. I sent in
teamwork shout out.
Yes.
Teamwork online. We always laugh when somebody brings that up because it's literally been conversations in chats like, does it work for some people? Yeah. Some people you just get ghosted.
Well, let me talk about how it works. So I applied that way, but I also send in. I'm like, I'll stalk professionally. Like, I'll stalk anybody. Yeah. If I'm trying to get something, that's just what it's going to be. So I also sent in a hard copy of the resume, and then I called them a lot. Like, I could tell that they were getting a little aggravated, but it was all I had, man. It's the only thing I applied for. Like, there was at some point, the guy who was my coach's agent, I like stopped him at the tournament, and I was like, I don't have anything lined up. Like, if I don't get this, I'm going to need your help to figure out something else. So yeah, I stalked the Spurs. I stalked them to get that opportunity, and they gave it to me. So I think, respectfully, I think I was qualified for it. Like, I had finished grad school,
right?
And so that was going to be my internship to finish my grad work. So yeah, I stalked them.
Okay, so you get the internship. Talk about how long that was, what you were doing, and then how you then secured an internship to a full-time role, which is not easy.
So I interned for like 10 or 11 months in San Antonio. I was brought on to intern in their nonprofit, Silver and Black Give Back, the Spurs nonprofit. So I did that for the first 10 or 11 months. And then after that, I transitioned to more like league programming, which was better for me. I just enjoyed it more. So I worked on like NBA Cares projects, which was really cool. Again, in San Antonio, we were also very good, which was fun. So we ended up going to the finals. I was there 3 years, went to the finals twice, won once. And so we got to do this really cool, like, you know, if you're in the finals, you get to do this big community project where the league gives you money and your partners give you money and you create like these reading room types of things. So I got to work on some really cool stuff on the Spurs side. But in San Antonio at the time, the company owned a W team, a WNBA team, and also an AHL hockey team. And so I really got to sort of take the lead on projects and initiatives for hockey and for women's basketball. So it was a great experience because it gave me the opportunity to, you know, have the autonomy to build things and bring things to life.
That's awesome. And you were there, you got your work in, you were there for a championship, right?
I was.
Like, you are now at Excel. So how did you take that team experience and say, okay, what's next for me is this agency life?
Yeah. So I interned at Excel when I was in between my first and second years of grad school. I interned at Excel in our New York office. So, and also we represent a bunch of people from Uconn. So like there was always this connection between Excel and I that existed. At the end of my run in San Antonio, I knew I just wanted to transition to working more closely with players. I worked in our community department in San Antonio, which gave me some level of access for sure to basketball and working more directly with players, but it wasn't enough. Like my gift, if you ask me, is that I'm really good with players. Like, you put me in a room with a player, we are good to go. Like, it just feels like we instantly are able to build trust. And I wanted to be able to use my gifts in that way. And so again, started stalking the president of Excel because like, at that time I'm like, hey, please help me figure out like how I can get somewhere else.
Right.
And I don't even think I actually ever got him on phone. But then an opportunity opened up here, and I guess because I had been reaching out so much, he was like, "Hey, thought about you with this opportunity. Would you be interested in coming?" And so that was a transition. Now I transitioned. I was a coordinator or whatever in San Antonio, but I came to Excel at 27 as an assistant and didn't care because I knew, I just, based on my, limited experience interning here, I had the understanding that this was not going to be a step back and then you just, whatever.
Right.
I knew that if I took the step back, I'd be able to like really move my career forward. And feel like I've been able to do that at some level since I've been here. So it was definitely a good move. And then to answer your question about like skills, I think that the thing that equips me to do what I do now, or we'll talk about what I do now, is like all those other things that I've ever done. That I worked in a community department, that I did athletic fundraising, that I worked in men's basketball directly with players. Because on this side, the job is, at least with what I do, is it's whatever. I do whatever needs to be done. And so I think having some experience in those other areas really helped to equip me to be able to serve my players well now.
Definitely. Yeah, because they do, like, you're working on a community event with them. You're working on, anything under the sun, which we will dive into in this next topic, because we really want to, talk a lot about what you're doing now.
I think we need to have a separate episode on how you professionally stalk.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes.
What that looks like, how many times a week, what are you saying? We need a whole episode on that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love like traditional things, like I will send you something in the actual mail. I will write you a handwritten note. Like even at that time.
That's a basketball thing for sure. I
handwritten
still
note?
write and get notes all the time.
Me too.
So, I'm working in men's basketball at Uconn. Respectfully, my coaches were old. Like and so one of our assistant coaches, my favorite, his name is George Blaney. He was born in like the 1930s. He loves a handwritten note, And so I was able to pick up on some of those, like those things that just go over well, and just say like, I'm really serious. I'm really invested. I want to know more. I want to grow. Like that stuff matters.
It does matter. And I love something else that you said too, where you were making a transition and you said to somebody in your team, like, I don't know what's next. Like, I may have to have you help me. It's like, we sometimes think we can't ask other people for help too. It's like, if you know what you want and where you want to go in your career, and you have the connections and the people within your circle who could maybe make that happen for you or help, like, why not ask? I do that all the time. I'm the queen of information. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, you have to be your own biggest advocate. And like, I've been guilty of not pushing as much sometimes, but like 1000%, when I was trying to get the opportunity in San Antonio, I went in my coach's office and I was like, do any of y'all know anybody in San Antonio? Can y'all make a call for me? Because you're not just like, it's not like, we talk a lot. And that's the nature of this business. And I think sometimes it can feel a bit like unfair. But I had to figure it out. Like I had to figure out how to know people, because you have to know people in this business. And I knew that I wasn't asking them to go in there and vouch for me, and I didn't have anything to show. Like they knew my work. They knew I would go to San Antonio and work. And so, you have to speak up for yourself for sure.
100%.
Nobody can read your mind. Nobody's going to know what you want to do unless you're talking about it.
Right. And you're your biggest advocate. Like it's, sometimes you hear that people get these situations, but it's rare that somebody's going to come up to you and be like, I have this opportunity, unless you're like, as you get down in your career and you've built these, people are going to think more of you for opportunities because they know that you'll put yourself out there for them as well.
For sure.
A little like mid-career advice as we go into the next section.
You gotta be aggressive. I had a similar, Brian Blaney, George's son, is an assistant at Providence, and I worked with him for 2 years with Mike.
Oh, cool.
Too. And so at the end of my graduate assistantship, I would have loved to stay at Providence. There wasn't an opportunity. And I was in Blaney's office every morning at 8 a.m. asking, who can you call in your Rolodex? Who do you have? Where can I go? And no bullshit, he calls Howie Dickerman at Central Connecticut because an op spot opened, and he calls and says, I got a guy. You don't even need to post it. I got the guy for you. I had to get in my car the next day drove, interviewed, and was offered the job.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's how it goes, man. Like, especially in sports. Like, I think sports is probably, I don't know, maybe like entertainment or whatever, but I think sports is probably the number one industry where relationships is everything. More than anything else. More than anything else.
Yeah, and again, you build those relationships by doing good work.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to vouch for you if your work is poor. So.
Yeah.
Nope.
Exactly.
Amen.
All right. We want to transition to, or Dom, I'm sorry, did you have one more thing?
No.
Okay. So want to transition in the second half. Want to focus on all the work that you're doing with the players, the day-to-day, what that really looks like. So tell us about your role now with Excel. You work closely with CJ McCollum, Blake Griffin, a ton of others, but tell us about your day-to-day stuff now.
Yeah, so I work in our marketing group. I have about 8 NBA guys that I work with. And then I also have responsibilities here in our West Coast office. Our West Coast office is fairly small, but I help to sort of oversee like our operations and everything that we're doing in our space here. But I mean, yeah, my job day to day is literally serving our basketball players and delivering on whatever it is that they need, whether it's building and implementing community platforms for them, managing partnerships for them. For some of my young guys, it's like figuring out where they're going to live, figuring out what kind of car they want to get, like literally whatever is a player wants to do, that's sort of where I jump in and help them. And then also just a lot of like figuring out the strategy of what we want things to look like for them off the court, I think is a big part of what I do as a team of people as well.
How do you, this isn't our document, so I'm sorry.
Sure.
It's a
I'll get it.
How do you get good at, and again, I'm going to lean back on being a manager, being a GA, being an ops person. How do you get good at being in a job that does not have a handbook, does not have a blueprint, does not have a how-to document when you arrive? A ton of jobs, you get there, there's a book, hey, here's how you do this, you're checking off like you just mentioned 4 things that you essentially just have to figure out. Like, how do you tell people to like get good at that? How do you work on that?
I think you just kind of like have to.
You got to be thrown in.
You just have to do it. Like you just have to do it. Like I mean, like you know, when I first started, I had like maybe 1 player my first year, so that gives me a good opportunity to sort of figure out what that looks like and to be able to ask some questions of folks. I ended up getting some like bigger name players in my second year, but at the time I like CJ, right? Like at the time I got CJ, he was averaging like 6 points a game. Like that's what he was averaging when I took him on. So I never. Until recently, I wasn't really taking on players who were big from the start. Like I was able to sort of grow along with my players, which I think is a big part of it. But like, you just figure it out. Like, you know, I said I work as a part of a team of people, and we're constantly brainstorming and talking with one another and saying, hey, have you worked in this space? Tell me how you did it. Like I am not afraid to pick up the phone and call a colleague and say, I think you did this. Tell me how you did it. I'm trying to do this for whatever player. So yeah, early it feels a little daunting. It can feel like a little like, I'm not sure what to do with it. But the more you do it, the more it's just like, if there's a challenge, I can meet it. Like if there's a problem, I will solve it. You just figure it out. You just figure it out. I don't know. You just you do it. Like you just do it.
Yep. What is the hardest part of your job?
What is the hardest part of my job? I work a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Probably the hardest part is just like trying to get answers to things sometimes can be really challenging, and it just like holds up the progress of like what you're trying to be doing, whether it's from a partner or from a player or whatever the case may be. I think that can be like sort of the day-to-day challenge that I'm just like, all right, like you're holding me up from trying to keep everything moving forward. So I think that probably, I'd say that's probably it.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about working with players?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's just like, this is like a cake job. Like it's all fun. Like you're just hanging with players. It's fun all the time. Like, here's the thing. I love basketball players, and I love the guys that I get to work with every single day. But this is work. This is a job. And like, I do get to do some really fun things. But it's not always glamorous. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with doing the work and putting in the work. But I just think that's like a really important thing. I get a number of young people who reach out And I realized that like there are some people who work in different industries or even in our industry that I look to and I'm like, dang, they're killing it. Look at her. She's bossed up. Like she's doing it. And I realized that all these people were hitting me because that's how they saw me. And I'm like, okay, well, okay. Like I do get to do some amazing things, but also I want to make sure you understand the fullness of like what goes into this work experience. If this is something you want to do, I need you to see beyond just like the glamour of some of the things that you think I do. To recognize that this is like real work.
Yeah. It's every episode that we've had, we've all addressed this to where like before you really start working in sports or if you're on the inside out, everybody thinks of it as this like glamorous job. Everything's perfect. It's like the amount of times that I have like just been sweating in meetings. It's like there's so much that really goes into it. And there's always such a great reward, but it's constant hard work all the time. And you do have to be ready to have that like almost, I hate saying grind mentality, but like you do.
Yeah, no, I mean like, listen, some of it is very glamorous. Like I typically travel in a situation, like obviously we're in COVID, so I'm not doing it this year, but I typically travel internationally with a player every summer. Some really good trips. And when you travel with a player, it's excellent.
Yeah. That's
car service, security, like first class flights, like all of these things that I personally really enjoy, right? So you get that, but then like last summer I had to do an event for a player internationally and I traveled with like 200 pounds worth of stuff personally.
That was probably not fun.
I had to figure it out. Like and to your point earlier, Paul, like I just figure it out, you know what I mean? So that like it's not always glamorous, but it is rewarding. It's extremely rewarding because I work with players, like, and I'm helping to bring to life their dreams and their goals. And I work with a really good group, so they're like very appreciative of like all the work that we put into making things work for them.
Yeah, you guys have an amazing roster for sure.
We got a good group,
and
sure.
with that, you know, you work with so many different guys. How do you balance like finding and sourcing the right opportunities for all of your athletes, especially if it's like, okay, a rookie, we're looking at maybe somebody who's like in the middle of their career, like that's got to be a process.
Yep. I talked a little bit about like this idea that I personally think I'm really good with players. So you put me in a room with a guy, like you sign with us, I'm your person day to day. We're good instantly. We have great relationships from the very beginning. That relationship piece to me is the most important part. Like I know what my guys like. So when I'm having conversations with the folks in my communications team or the folks on our sales team, or with brands, I'm able to speak to what it is I think will work for a guy. The guys also trust me. So there have certainly been times when it's like a player is like, no, I think this is a bad idea. And I'm like, listen, I've taken some no's. This one is going to be a yes. Let's talk about why I really feel like this one needs to be a yes. I will absolutely push my players if I think it's going to help them to go to their next level. But I'm only able to do that because they trust me, because they know that if I put you in a situation, I have your best interests at heart. So that relationship piece to me is critical. Like I travel a lot. And sometimes it's just getting on a plane, going to a city, having dinner the night before, going to the game, heading to the next city the next morning. Like it's just FaceTime. It's just, hey, I'm here to see you. I don't care if you're playing or you're not playing. I'm there. Like I'm there to show up for you. And that show up, like that's what helps us to build the relationship that then gets us to the place where I'm able to say, this is the right opportunity for you. This is what we should be doing moving forward.
Yeah. Because there's so many people around that want to say, do this opportunity or take this or take that. So to your point, like that trust is the most important thing, because it's like, well, she's never going to like give me something or put me in touch with somebody that isn't going to either A, relate to me or connect with me, or B, like be in the position for me to win. Because, you know, you see, like I remember when I first started in the industry, it was so eye-opening to me to see all the people that just clamor for these athletes' attention and things when it's like, it's not in the best interest for you at all. So that's so important.
No, I mean, we do a lot of that too. Like,
Yeah.
I do a lot of like, if I think somebody is not right, I'm gonna say, I know that you like this person. I want to talk about it. Like, this is probably not as good as you think it is, because we all fall into this. I was having a conversation with one of my players and his fiance, and it's just like, people treat us nicely because they think that we have something to offer. Like, so some of my guys will be like, yeah, this person is a great person. And I'm like, I think that they might be a little bit shady, but you would never know that. They're always going to be nice to you. They're always going to be good to you. They might be nice and good to me because of that same reason. So just helping my guys to figure out, just figure it all out. Like, my whole thing is about trying to empower them as much as I can to make good decisions for themselves. I don't want to babysit and hold hands. That's not what this is. I want them to be their best. And I try to help them do that.
And you do a great job. And, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like, how did you shift your strategy during quarantine? I know we got to work on that watch party with Blake together. That
all digital. Yep. Working, I mean, like, it felt like we had more to do. I think, obviously, I have guys that, like, people want to talk to at the top of my roster. So those guys are always going to be very busy, and we're always going to be fielding requests. I think we spent a lot of time figuring out what give back looks like for players during this time. And that's an ongoing thing. I think that started at the beginning of COVID, and then we sort of shifted to Black Lives Matter and how we can be more engaged on that front. We've done so much media in the last 3 months, and I'm sure that will continue. But I think it's been a really great time for players who are not my star players to get the opportunities to speak to media, to get the opportunities to showcase their personalities. And I know that, our team has been working incredibly hard to identify those opportunities for guys at every single level. So we've been busy. We've been working in the meantime, for sure.
Yeah. I've loved, and this is a perfect segue into our next question, because it's like, when sports has been dead, quote unquote, you really see the power, especially that like NBA athletes have just in this world in general. Like, I think more than any other sports, like NBA players, they're so dynamic with their off the court lives. They're businessmen, philanthropists, fashion icons. So now it's kind of called this player empowerment movement, right?
Sure.
Like, how have you seen that shift since you've been working like directly with players? Like, was there a point where you can say, oh wow, this changed, like they're their own brands?
I don't think I've been in it all that long. Like, when I got to my guys have sort of been on that. And again, I had the kind of guys who are like setting their own vision for how we move forward, like just thoughtful, really engaged players. Like, you asked the question about what's it like working with a veteran player versus a rookie. With rookies, I'm really helping to set the tone of like what it is that we're going to do, what I think is right, especially in that first year. And then after the first year, it's definitely a check back in. And I'm also, even in the meantime, I'm seeing like what goes well, what does not go well, what you like. And young players might not tell me no. So I need to be able to look and infer and see what's happening. The more they get into their career, the more that they know what they like, what they don't like, what they want to do. And so then with bigger guys like Blake or CJ, they're really setting the vision. Like, this is what I think I want to do. And I'm like, this is how we're going to do it. Let's work together, on this. So yeah, it's like, different levels of guys. You're doing different things.
Have you worked with a player yet that you've helped transition into retirement?
Yeah, I've had a couple of guys who have they're sort of retired. Like, I think that they don't want to be retired, but and like, the thing about what we do that I really love is that we're having those conversations about what you want to do post-career from the first meeting, like from the very first meeting. What are you interested in? Like, and so we're working to develop those opportunities with our players, even from the beginning while they're in the league, on what next will look like for them. So by the time we get to a transition, it's never really that hard because guys have already established sort of what it is that they want to do next. And we've certainly, as a company, we have a number of guys who have transitioned to coaching or TV, and are still with us. Like, we still represent them. Like, I think we think of this as like, we're a family for real. Like, this is a lifelong thing. We're happy to work with you forever if that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. you know, from a philanthropy and social justice standpoint, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but like,
Yeah.
you know, we've seen our players come up so big during these trying times. Like, how do you have any specific examples of things that your players have done, you know, as it relates to either the Black Lives Matter movement or COVID, that you're like, wow, this was really like, it took their interest and passion and they did something that was incredible?
Yeah, I mean, I have guys who like I think are just still trying to figure out where they want to be engaged
Right.
at all in terms of community work, who saw this as an opportunity to do things that matter to them. I have a player who loves Chipotle.
Mm-hmm.
Eats it every day. That's his jam. And so we work together with the team to feed some frontline workers with his Chipotle. He has a Chipotle VIP card. He gets catering off of
Mm-hmm.
it. We're able to feed frontline workers, and that's really rewarding for him. He's like, this is great. I get to do something good. I get to do something that matters to me.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I've had a number of guys who have done more things like hometown things. Like we spend so much time working in
Mm-hmm.
our markets, and much less time doing things in folks' hometowns. So we spend a lot more time focusing on hometowns, on making sure that people can eat. A lot of what we've done over this time has been around food security. And that is just a good example of how we collaborate. Like in a situation like this, when everything just sort of falls apart, it's like it can be overwhelming, the number of options and the number of ways that players can do things. And so, you know, with one of my guys, that's the conversation. What do you think we should do? And I'm like, people, food security. Like people are not really sure how they're going to eat right now. That's where we need to focus your dollars. And it's great. Like I feel like I have such an amazing impact. I'm doing it with my guys and
Mm-hmm.
their money and their platforms, and we're able to really make a difference, which I think has been really fun.
Absolutely. They're always leaders, and I'm just excited to see too with the season back how they continue to, you know, use their voices and their platforms.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they will. They will.
Yeah, absolutely. And has there been a specific project that you've worked on with a player that's been particularly like meaningful to you, especially seeing the impact maybe from a philanthropic standpoint?
Yeah. I think probably we in Portland we build these things called the CJ McCollum Dream Centers, which is we do it in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, which is just like the partner. We work with probably like 10 organizations in Portland, but Boys and Girls Club is really the main partner. And so similar to that project that I did when I was in San Antonio, we essentially build these rooms. They're not necessarily reading rooms, but they're safe spaces at the Boys and Girls Clubs. And the mission is really for students to begin to think outside the box about what it is they want to be when they grow up. Like this is all about access to opportunity, exposure to opportunity. And we spend a lot of time on it. And I think that the project is so rewarding because CJ's story is just very interesting. Like again, he didn't go to Duke or Kentucky or Uconn. He didn't go to a school like that. Like he had to really work.
He beat Duke, though. He beat Duke. That's for damn sure.
So he had to, his come up story is just so very different. And so for whatever reason, when we put him in a room with young people, they feel like I can be maybe not a basketball player, but if he could figure this out, I can figure out my life situation too. And so to me, that's the most rewarding. We spend a lot of time with those kids. We have kids come out to the basketball camp. We have the most fun every single Christmas. We throw a bowling party and we do gifts and all of that stuff. But like literally, you'll be having conversations with kids at the Boys and Girls Club, and they're like, CJ, I know CJ. I met CJ. I spent time with him. Like just that level of like connection, like that it doesn't feel like I'm a star and I can't ever relate to who you are. To me, that's the reason and the way that we've been able to have as much impact as we've been able to have in Portland, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great project. I was hoping you would say that.
It's the best. It's the best in terms of community work. It's the best thing that we have done, and it's also like it's the jumping off point for everything. We CJ was speaking at a conference I think last week, and they were asking him what's your thing, what's your lane, and he recognized, and I was glad that he did, that community is at the heart of every single thing. Everything that we've built for him we've been working together for 5 years. Everything that we've built has been based on community because that's where his interest, his heart lies. So yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, switching gears a little bit, we recently saw a couple announcements from some of your clients. We'll stay on CJ first, but just released a new wine.
I have it.
Robbie, yeah, we got to push this wine. Got to push it. How did this come about? I mean, how do you even get involved with launching your own wine?
Yeah, so CJ, tells the story of his fiance, who is amazing. She introduced him to wine, I think, like in their senior year of college. He had never been drinking red wines, certainly before. I had not been drinking red wines before. And so, he starts his interest with wine, and then he moves to Oregon, which has an incredible like wine scene.
Yep.
Insane. Like Oregon Pinots, which is what we produced for his first wine, are incredible. And so we had been trying to figure out if he wanted to do more in that space. The vineyard that we work with on this is a partner of the Trailblazers. And so we had been talking with them about maybe doing like a partnership, like a regular partnership deal, name and likeness type of thing. But I think, again, right, you put him in a room, he's great, he's engaging, he's asking a lot of questions. And so I think that we all saw that there was an opportunity for us to do more than just a general regular partnership. And so we've been working on this. We probably started these conversations like 18 months ago or so. We've been working in earnest for a year on this wine. And we've been a part of every single element of it. Like, we've been a part of it in terms of tasting the wine, figuring out what we wanted to go with, the design of the label, the paper that we use on the label, the website, all of it. We build in partnership with the wine, with the vineyard, which is great because they have an expertise, right? To your earlier question, that I don't. So I ask a lot of questions, and we've established that relationship with them so that I can do that. But he wanted to launch a wine brand, so that's what we did. We figured out how to do it, and
we're all ordering a case. Like we said, we're all ordering a case.
Yes.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it'll be available in September,
Okay.
and we'll have more. Like, this is just a jumping off point of creating a new brand for him.
Nice. So how did the name come about, Heritage 91?
Yeah, so a big thing for him is just legacy. Like, he's always talking about his last name, building a legacy for himself. That's super important to him. So we just were brainstorming names, and we liked Heritage in place of legacy. And then we also were talking, funny enough, that he grew up on Heritage Avenue. That's the street that he grew up on in Canton, Ohio, where he's from. And so he's born in 1991. So that's how we came together with the name. And then the logo is it's an anthurium flower, which is his fiance. She's a huge plant person, and so she loved that flower, and so he did that as a tribute to her.
Nice, very cool.
That's amazing. I love this, and I love how wine is like the new thing in the NBA. It's like it's really changed the face of that. It's like I read, you think of like LeBron's so into this too.
Yeah.
CJ has always been a leader in it, but like it's just
lots of guys.
cool
Yeah.
to see those worlds colliding.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity. Like, if you're a curious person and you want to know more, there's much to learn in the wine space. Like, it can feel very
overwhelming.
So like uppity, like, it can feel like it's not easy to understand. And so I think that's part of the mission of what we're trying to do, is make it really approachable for people, at our age, to drink and enjoy a nice Oregon Pinot.
Yeah, you're gonna have to meet my cousin, because she's a sommelier, and she always jokes with me about like, all these NBA players are into wine, like I've got to meet them. But it really is cool, because for the wine industry, like, these are playmakers that have not been, involved in it. So it's a whole new, business opportunity for both parties, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, well, we'll remember September.
September.
We'll send you your Huddle t-shirt. So
and I'll send you guys a bottle. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, CJ's also involved with something that, me and my content. I'm very interested in Players TV. I think it's amazing. He's so good. Your team is amazing at just finding the perfect times to attach to what is hot, and it is this athlete content movement. So can you tell, for those who aren't know, a little bit about Players TV?
Yeah, so Players TV is like a platform basically for athlete generated content to live. I think as it relates to CJ, like, he was a journalism major at Lehigh. He's always been a media person. He does a ton of media. That's really his area of interest, is creating content opportunities for himself and for others. And so I think an opportunity like Players TV is a great opportunity for him to really step it up a level from what we've been doing always, and really looking to just challenge himself and to do more in that space. So he's excited about it. I'm excited about it. We're working on figuring out, what kind of content we really want to put together beyond just figuring out some video components for his podcast. But yeah, Players TV, media, all things media, or all things CJ McCollum for sure.
Yeah. And they're just on Samsung TV for right now, correct? Or will...
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I'm excited. I need to check it out. But I think it's a great, anything that's player driven, it's like people want to see this off the court lifestyle based content with athletes. So it's the perfect destination where you could see everybody right there.
So much more to than just basketball. And like they want to be exploring other interests. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of great content that comes through Players TV for sure.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we saw that Blake announced a new podcast, The Pursuit of Healthiness. Awesome name.
Mm-hmm.
How did this come about?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Blake is also a content creator for real. Like that's just, that's the space that he's in. And so, to the earlier question of how guys are identifying opportunities, it's like putting guys where their interests lie. Health and wellness is a huge part of his life, like a huge part of his life, as is producing content. And so I think he thought that this was a great opportunity to do a really unique player podcast. Mm-hmm. I don't think he really had an interest in doing anything that's like a regular get on and talk about basketball, which there's nothing wrong with that. CJ does it. He does it, at a high level, and that's great. But Blake specifically likes to find his own lane. And I think that he felt like this, talking about health and wellness and talking to other people who invest in that area, was sort of the route that he wanted to go. So I'm excited about that one too. Like that doesn't come out, I think, until August. And I haven't heard any of that yet. So it's gonna be my first time hearing it when everybody else hears it as well.
I saw it's already like, they're like, season 1 isn't here, but we already got it for season 2.
Yeah, I mean, the whole season is taped. Like the whole thing is done. So it's just a matter of releasing it out to the world, and it's gonna be good. Like really thoughtful conversations around health and wellness. And I think the idea behind it is just making it approachable. Same thing like with the wine, making it approachable, making people feel like it's something that they can understand, and these are things that they can apply to their own lives as well.
Definitely. Yeah, man, when you got this job, it's like it's so cool to me how you've been able to, be in the deals where you're creating a new wine or a new media platform. I mean, that's what I think is so amazing about your role and why you're so good at this is you're able to just come in and it's like, yes, you're working with the player, but you've probably picked up so many different business skills that like, a lot of people wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do because you work across so many different athletes.
Yeah, and I think culture at a place matters, right? Like I talk a lot about that, a lot, because I've been in places where it's like, I'm probably not a great culture fit here. Like I like to work, in a very autonomous way. I need for people just to give me my space to do what I need to do. I will come back and ask questions if I need to, but I need to just be able to take what I'm working on and go.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity that I've been given here. I'm really fortunate to work. I work primarily with one of our agents who is based here in Los Angeles. And the conversation is always very much like people will, because part of this is just figuring out like, who are you supposed to talk to about players? And there are certainly people who will go to the agent and be like, hi, I'm coming to you. And they're like, go talk to Ashley because Ashley knows the players. Ashley can give you the answer. I can't help you. She will know the answers to these things. And so I feel fortunate to work in a place where I feel empowered to be able to really lead in that way and to be able to do whatever I need to do to deliver for our players.
Yeah. Well, you're great at your role and we love seeing you shine. For anyone who's looking to get into a similar role, particularly women, do you have any advice for them?
In terms of like abilities or just like breaking in?
Just breaking in or both, because I think like, in sports, a lot of skills are transferable, but like, you don't always know how to either break in or like, is this something that I really want to do? Like, I'm sure you have to have a certain personality for this too.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would certainly, and people do, I would reach out. Like if you see somebody who is doing something in an industry, send them a note. They might not hit you back, but the challenges is like we all have so many things that we're doing day to day, and that can be kind of rough. The people who get me are the people who send that note a couple of times. That's just the honest to goodness truth. Like my intentions are good. I intend to hit everybody back, but I just don't have the capacity all the time. So as I talked about earlier, don't be afraid. Still a little professional stalking. Be persistent. Like that's always the person that's going to get, at least me, that's the person that's going to get my attention, because I might be flying all over the place or doing whatever, and I just don't have the time. But if I see that you sent me a note, I'm going to be like, all right, cool. Let me try to get with that person. So I definitely would set up some time to learn about culture in places. Again, I think that that's really critical. You need to know if it's going to be a good fit for you. Ask questions about the kind of work, like that informational interview, I think is really important. And then even looking for opportunities, like you're just going to have to be persistent. Sometimes things aren't open when you're looking. I would stay on people's radar. That's how I would do it. And I would do really good work where I am. And I would talk about the good work that I'm doing where I am. Because again, right, like everybody wants to have the best people on their team. It's just trying to figure out who those folks are, I think can be a little bit of a challenge. So just staying persistent. And then, in terms of skills, again, like you got to be able to adapt. You have to be able to problem solve. Like, to me, those are the big things. Like, can you figure it out? Are you going to like lose your cool under pressure? Nobody has time for that. Like, I've been at All-Star with a player where things were not going great, but he's looking at me to deliver. You can't like lose your cool under pressure. I think that's a huge one.
Especially around that, because it will be a scene.
It will be a whole scene. You're going to be embarrassed. Like, they think you're the expert. Like, that's the whole thing, is people think you're the expert whether or not you are the expert. So try to carry yourself accordingly, please.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll open it up for guests. This has been awesome. We could talk to you forever.
You want to take the first question, Dom? You want me to?
I see the first question is from Julie.
Julie, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, I can take that one. So, Ash, what are some sports podcasts you listen to that have benefited you from a sports business mentality?
That's really hard. Do y'all know any good sports business podcasts? I don't think I do. Like, I listen to a ton of, I just love to hear people talk about basketball, so I would listen to any basketball podcast that exists. Like, it's just like, noise in the background at this point. I love it. I listen to more things that are like business centric.
Me too.
Or that I feel like are good hustle, like the NPR How I Built This.
Yeah.
I really, really, really enjoyed that podcast. Because it's cool. Like, you're hearing how people have like built themselves up, and I just think applying sort of that entrepreneurial spirit, especially in what I do, is like really critical. So it's not a sports podcast, but How I Built This for sure, I think is a really good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, we got to shout out Winging It with Vince Carter and Annie first.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I love listening to that.
Annie. The Woj podcast, that's pretty good. I don't know if it's always business focused, but that's a good one.
Yeah, there are great sports podcasts for sure. Like, it's just a matter of if there's. I felt like when I saw that question, I was like, that's an idea. That's something that does not exist.
Yeah,
like maybe we should create that. So yeah.
I like the boardroom stuff that they do with the boardroom.
You know what?
Because
that's a good one.
That is the perfect collaboration of like, this is the business of sports and like what goes into it, especially because like I like to follow personally the epicenter of this like athlete content movement. So I've gotten a lot from that one as well.
That one, especially, I feel like over this COVID-19 has been really good. Like, had some really strong women, especially on there, talking about, sort of the ins and outs of what they do and how they do it.
Yep. Any other questions?
That's all we had in the chat, unless anybody has any others. We can get into the post-game presser, which are fun. These are the easy ones.
Paul, kick us off. I'm excited to hear your answers here.
All right, so first one in the post-game presser, favorite NBA arena.
My favorite NBA arena. I'm so biased. If any of my players ever hear this, they're gonna be pissed. But I love the Moda Center.
I knew.
It's crazy in there. Like, I had been there so. I feel it's awful saying this, but I had been there for a lot of games, right? And they had lost, but I didn't realize they had lost all the games I had been to until they won one and they dropped streamers. And so I'm like, oh, this is so great. You guys dropped streamers tonight. And they're like, we do this all the time when we win. But the atmosphere never changes in there. Like, it is, it's been a lot of fun at the Moda for sure. And also, I just spend the most time there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Portland's a cool city. I say that all the time. I've enjoyed spending time in Portland.
Great food, great wine, good basketball. great in the summer. Beautiful in the summer.
Yep. All right, best all-star that you've been to.
Okay, I have two. I really loved, I think it was 2017 in New Orleans. I had a really good time on that one, a really good time, because we were just doing so many things. I was with CJ. He was I participated in like the shooting contest or whatever for All-Star Saturday night, but there was just so many different like partnership opportunities. It was a really fun time. And also just like the way that we roll at those kinds of things is really fun. Like, I don't know. It's like the opportunity to get to see your friends, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And then I think this year was really, really fun. This was the first year that I wasn't with CJ or Blake. I was with a guy, one of my guys who plays in Milwaukee, who was in the dunk contest. And he's not like the kind of guy that gets all of these opportunities typically. And so walking through his first All-Star experience with him, like just like the wonder of it, the joy of it. And also I had gone to a lot of dunk practices, and I don't know what I was expecting from a dunk practice, but they didn't go that great. So I show up to Saturday night. I'm like in the gear. I got his, face on my shirt. I'm dressed. I'm ready. And he kills it. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the stands. Like, I was sitting with one of my colleagues. She has video. I'm going crazy. Like, the people behind me had to be like, who is this girl? How does she know this random player that nobody knows? Like, doesn't expect to be in the dunk contest. Like that's it. Like, I love my guys. The opportunity to show up for a guy who never, like, I have chills even talking about it and thinking about it right now, because that's how much fun we had. And like, even our relationship has changed even since that time, because he saw that I'm like, I'm down. Like, whatever it is, I'm here for you. I've got you. It's really fun to do it with guys who've never got the opportunity to do it before. That was special. We had a good time.
That's awesome. That's big time. Best Netflix binge of quarantine.
I watch a lot of TV. I also read a lot, but I watch a lot of TV. I don't know that I've seen anything great that I like super loved during the quarantine, but at the beginning of this year, I think it's at the beginning of this year, I watched Top Boy, which is like, it's British. I'm obsessed. Like, sometimes I get shows that I obsess over. Top Boy is one that I obsess over.
Wow.
Watch it.
I don't think we've heard that one yet.
No, we haven't.
I'm sure you haven't. People like
start it. I've heard it.
I get these things where like I obsess, and then if I obsess, I'm gonna tell everybody I know, like, you have to watch Top Boy. This is how you watch it. Like, start it from the beginning and then go to like it. Top Boy. I'm a huge Top Boy fan. All
right. Well, we have two other questions. Another one from Julie. Most creative thing you've seen during quarantine? That's open ended. That could mean a lot of things. Maybe Trae Young on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, TikTok. I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I just feel very old watching people on TikTok, because young people are creative. Like, I don't know how. I do not know how.
It's always at night. It's always like when I get into bed, but I fall into like deep TikTok hole. Like, I'll be on my phone for like a full hour and not even realize, not even blink.
I don't need another social media platform to go down. I will check in every week or so to see what my young players are posting on there, because I have to make sure my young players don't mess this stuff up. Like, I have to coach them through it for sure.
Dedication too, because I'm like, I hate getting on social media sometimes to post like one thing for myself. I'm like, this is your whole day, learning the day, perfecting it, like
the dance is crazy. I didn't realize. I knew I was a bad dancer, but I didn't realize I was that bad. You try to do one of these, I got nothing. Like,
I'm a two-stepper. That's what I've got for you. TikTok is not for your girl.
Won't see us on TikTok. Nah. Everybody in this chat, the three of us, will not TikTok.
Nah, not happening.
All right, Taylor has got a question.
Yeah, Taylor's my girl. Taylor's my girl from Uconn.
I have to connect with you because I recognize your name because we had the same internship at the Celtics, in Heather and Jeff Twiss's group. So I recognized your name. I think we have some similar friends in Boston, but that's for another combo. So
Taylor's a Connecticut Husky. She's from Uconn men's basketball.
Taylor, I will hit you up on LinkedIn. But Taylor asks, can you talk about the importance of intentional networking and as well as maintaining relationships, not just building new ones? That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think even just, in terms of navigating career, in terms of having support in your career, like you're going to get the opportunities and you're going to be able to move forward by the people that you know, and the people that know you, honestly, like the people who know you, who know what your interests are. It's critically important to be intentional about that. I certainly do that. I'm not really good at like show up to a networking event and network.
Yeah.
It's a little rough for me, but I am very good at, this is a person that's killing it. I've been watching them for a while. When I get the opportunity, I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to ask them a question. I'm going to build a relationship from there. I love that she asked about intentional networking because that's really what I've seen to be the most successful, certainly for me. And it's what I'm most comfortable with, is like being very intentional, and not only about what is it that I can get from you? Can I pick your brain? Like, can you help me? But like, how can I hold you down? How can I help you? How can I serve you? Like, I love the opportunity to do it. And I think Taylor's a really good example. I'm going to tell our business a little bit, but like she and I have been friends for a while. There are certainly times when she and I've had conversations about her career. I've asked her questions about mine. Like, just having people that you who know you, I think is really important. And yeah, like maintaining those relationships, that'll get you through your whole career.
Yep.
That's going to get you through, like, that's going to, help you move. I think the one example that I found to be really interesting in the last like month or so, is just like the way my relationships have shifted, even at Excel, and spending a lot more time talking to some of my colleagues, especially some of my Black colleagues, because we've been sort of ripping on some of like challenges and issues and what we think. And like those girls, whatever, for the rest of their career, whatever they need, whatever, I've got them. And so I think building those relationships, knowing how people work, and being able to speak to that is everything in sport. Like, it's everything. Your reputation certainly precedes you. It definitely does.
Yeah.
And I love to see how, like, I mean, literally how I met both of you was through like connections or different things with sports, because it's like people in your network always know who to connect you with, because it's going to be somebody that's going to have like-minded interests. You can both help each other. Like, it really is the most important thing, I think, of this.
And it's just building community. Like, it's just like, hey, I got this, I can't talk about this, I had this thing, like, I don't know. Yeah, Taylor, Annabelle on this call, like, these are all people that I'm like, hey, you know what you think about this? You know what I mean? So it's just critical to your career growth for sure.
I think something too that gets lost a little bit in just the general networking is, at least from my perspective, I was always taught, you have to network with the president, the CEO, the vice president. It's like, no, your peers are actually going to get you way further along in your career than reaching out to the 37-year-old MBA exec who is getting reached out to by a million of the same people. It's like, no. So I would say for intentional networking, yes, it's hard. It's continuous. It's just like you're talking. It's just kind of similar to like social media, right? You have to check in all the time. You got to post all the time. It's the same thing as relationships. And if you focus on your peer group, you don't know where everybody's gonna be. And to your point, Ashley, like that will carry you your career as long as you're authentic. You're not taking advantage of people, and you're providing value. How can you provide value?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And those relationships last. Like Cedric just joined the chat. Cedric is one of my friends. He's also one of Dom's friends. But like Cedric and I have been friends. We worked together in San Antonio from 2011. Annabelle and I met in 2011. Taylor and I met God knows when. I don't know, some point in the early 2000s at Uconn or whatever. But like these relationships matter and they last if you work on them. So yeah, building those intentional relationships is key.
And like, even part of the reason why we wanted to start this was when, COVID came upon us, and we're like, one of my favorite thing about working in this industry is, as you said, Ash, you're out at events, you're doing this, and it's like you're working, but it's an opportunity to see your friends. So, we wanted to create a platform where people could network. And I'm going to call Rachel out, who's in this group, but, she reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, my alarm's going off, so I'm sorry. She was like, let's chat, let's connect. And she called me, and it was like, okay, cool. Like, now here's another great contact in this industry. So it all goes hand in hand. But Paul, why don't you end us off since my alarm's going off and I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this was another awesome episode, Ashley. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everybody, I think you put your Instagram and LinkedIn in the chat. Everybody can connect with you there.
Yeah. Ashley Combs on LinkedIn, Ash_Combs on Instagram.
Awesome.
Hit me up. Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it big time.
Yeah, of course. So next time we can travel safely and you're in New York, we'll get a coffee or a beer or actually no, we're gonna have some wine. Is what we're gonna do.
We can have some nice wine. I love it.
Right. That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We'll be back here probably next week again. And thank you again, Ashley. This was awesome, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See you.